Ratio tables to equations. That's what our video is today, guys. Our learning target for today is students can write an equation from a ratio table. So now we're going to take our ratio tables and we're going to create equations. And then we can do more stuff with the equation and use them. Answers a lot of our questions a lot easier. Okay, make sure you write down the title. Make sure you write down your learning target. And if you need to pause this, go ahead. Otherwise, I am moving on to our first example. Example number 1. Write an equation using a whole number. So let's say I give you a ratio table of apples to oranges, and I tell you 2 apples, 8 oranges, 3 to 12, 5 to 20, 9 to 36. When we write an equation, guys, we are going to have 2 variables in our equation. Okay, one representing apples, one representing oranges. We're going to have one number in our equation. What we are going to use is we are going to use our value of our ratio. So basically we are going to figure out how do I go from 2 to 8. When I go this way, how do I go from 2 to 8? That is going to be times 4. How do I go from 3 to 12? That is going to be times 4. 5 to 20 times 4. 9 to 36 times 4. You always want to verify that it is a ratio table and that all of those are the same. So then what I am going to do is I'm going to write my equation. Once I figure out how to go from the left column to the right column, that is going to be my value of the ratio that I'm going to use in my problem. So here's how you find your answer when you write an equation. Okay, you're going to have kind of parts. You're going to have this part, you're going to have a part here, and then a part here. We're going to have 3 parts that we're going to have to figure out. All right? The first part is going to be your left column. In this case, that's the oranges, so I'm going to use the letter orange. Okay, or letter O, excuse me, for oranges. All right? You can use any variable you want, but we want it to match our column. So we got to use a letter that people would know what column we're talking about. And you always want that to be the left column. How do we find out how many oranges are? If I gave you the next one that was blank, how would you know how many oranges are in there? All right? Now, this number right here, this is going to be our value of our ratio. Okay, the value, if I could spell, of the ratio. In other words, how do you go from apples to oranges? We multiplied by 4. Okay? You are always going to multiply between them. So it's going to be my oranges equals 4 times, and then in this column, this is going to be my right column. Okay? And again, I'm going to use a variable that you would understand that would work for my right column. So I'm going to use A. So now that's my answer. And every time it's going to be that kind of format. So my final answer is going to be oranges equals 4A. Remember, this stands for multiplication, so that's how you write it. To figure out how many oranges you have, you multiply the number of apples by 4. So if I were to tell you that we had 10 apples, all you would have to do is 4 times 10, and that there are 40 oranges. That's how you could do that. Okay? So you need to write that formula and you need to work there. Right? If you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm moving on to example 2. In example 2, we're going to write an equation using a fraction. So in this case, it's very similar, but I have a fraction. So I'm going to follow that same formula. First, I have to figure out how do I go from the left column to the right column. Well, it's 1 times 15, but going this way, okay, a lot of you are going to think, well, that's divide by 15. Divide by 15. Divide by 15. Okay? And you would be right. But we don't want to write divided by. It has to be how do you multiply to get there. So here's a little trick, guys. If I am dividing by 15, that is the same thing as multiplying by the fraction. Multiply by 1/15. Multiply by 1/15. Multiply by 1/15. So if you just figure out that it's dividing to get there, well, if it's divide by 2, that's multiply by 1/2. Divide by 3, multiply by 1/3. So you have to use the multiplication figure to figure it out. Okay? Now I'm going to write the same thing. My left column goes first. My right column goes second in my equation. So it's going to be teachers equal. Okay, so how do you find my teachers? We're always trying to find that second column, that teachers. My teachers equal, well, I take the fraction 1/15 and I multiply that by the number of students, S. So teachers equal 115 of the S. Okay? So if I tell you that we have, 45 students, well, you would do 1/15 of 45, which is 45 divided by 15. And that means that we would need 3 teachers for that group. Okay? So you have to figure that out, but the trick in this one is if it's dividing, it's really multiplying by 1 over that number you're dividing by. Okay? If you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm moving on. In my last example, we got a little problem solving. So you're going to have to draw the table and then write an equation. In the bag of Skittles, there are 4 red Skittles for every 5 green. So I'm going to do 4 red. Well, let's do red first, and then green second. 4 red, 5 green. All right, I'm going to make a little table, 8, 10. All right, let's do another one, 12, 15. And let's do one more, 15, 20. Okay, so now you're going to be looking at this going, oh, how do I go from this column to this column? Okay, and it looks tough. It's actually fairly easy if we think of our value of the ratio. So what we're going to do for our value of the ratio, to figure out your answer, this is a great trick. It works all the time. You could have used it on the other ones also. All you are going to do to find the value of the ratio, all right, is you are going to take your second column and divide it by your first column. Alright, what a great way of doing this. Take your second column and divide it by your first column. So let's look at this example. 5, my green, divided by 4, my red. There is my value of my ratio. Alright, if you go back and look at the other ones, the teacher students, 1 over 15. Oh, 1/15 was our number. If you look at the first one, it was like 12 and 3. Oh, look, that was times 4. Okay, 12 over 3, 12 divided by 3 is 4. So there's our 4. Okay, now let's write our equation. You always do the first column, the green. G equals, plug in this value of the ratio number we just figured out, 5/4, and then red. And that's how you figure out your table. Okay, to take the green, you'd multiply by 5/4 of the reds. So you can do these even when there's fractions and you don't think that they're easy to do. There really is a quick, easy way of doing these problems. Okay, that is it for today. Have a wonderful night, and I will see you guys tomorrow.